referencing technology and what we do. And I think it was a shared bond we had when we first started looking at working together was the whole mindset and technology and I think the stress it can cause and the way that technology has evolved in the last couple of years, I think has put a lot of pressure on people to think that they need to do more with it. So I'd like to use our setting up shop conversation today to talk about technology.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. Yeah, I think when we first met and started discussing these things, it was the most common issue that I found that new business owners had was a fear of technology. But when you start talking to them, it's not the technology they fear, it's just the fact of not having the right knowledge of what they actually need or what needs to be used. And I think you're right, the way technology's evolved, especially over the last couple of years with AI, it seems to be the big thing. People talk technology, talking about AI at the moment. But it's not just that. When you look at all the options out there for new business owners, it can be quite overwhelming to understand what tech do we actually need and when and what relationship has it got to use in their business, but also depending on the part of the journey they're on, what do you need at that important time? I think that's where you come in a lot, is that understanding get them, and a brilliant thing you do is the workflows. Getting something like that lets them visually see where they're at in their journey, but then what things they're going to need at what point, which is a
Yeah.
great thing.
Yeah, and what I'm finding, and particularly when people are new to business, is they get told about something. You should have this because it's great. But what they don't see is the reasoning behind the technology. It's like, oh, yes, I'll use this CRM because someone told me I should use it. But that person might be 3 to 4 years into their
Yeah,
journey and they need it for a different reason. And there are hundreds, thousands of CRMs, so customer relationship management systems is CRMs. There are so many out there, and what people don't realize is that you need to assess the CRM for the delivery for you. So often CRMs are built because they're meeting a different need
yeah,
and it's not one fits all. I mean, there's a lot of all-in-one CRMs out there now, but there's still differences and reasoning behind selecting your tech. And I think that's what we'd like to talk about today is we know that it's a challenge to choose something. You're asking people what they have and what they like. But it often comes down to, does it meet the need that you have? And does it also fit the cost parameters that you have? Because often with systems, they might be free for for a very small piece of it, but then you start to pay for the
yeah.
extra. And sooner or later, you're suddenly paying for a lot more than you expected because that's what you actually need. So I think it's a really important thing to look at is when you're looking at technology to know that there are a whole other lot of factors that come into it, not just someone told me about it and it must be good.
Yeah, and I think you hit one real important point there that I find with a lot of them is they're asking the wrong people about what they need. You said it there because someone is 3 or 4 years down the line doesn't necessarily have the same thing. So what they ask is actually the wrong question, sometimes rather than the wrong person. Instead of saying, what did you need when you started? What could I use then? They say, what do you use? And
Mm,
the person tells what they're using now, but they're forgetting as well that they've been on a journey they never used at the beginning. And
yes.
that's where the overwhelm comes in, is because they start getting all these, I need to pay for all these things. And you're right, there's so many different ones. I do an audit with new business owners, especially if they say they've been in business for maybe 6, 8 months. And I say to them, okay, I want you to go through your bank account and I want you to tell me everything you're paying out for in your business just now. And they say, well, my accountant does that. But yeah, but they look for a different reason. What
Yeah.
I'm looking for is to see, do you really need those things at this moment in time? Or can we find you alternatives that you've got the option of? I don't pick and give you a certain thing. And that's the wonderful thing about setting up shop. We will not tell you you need to use, you said, this customer relationship manager or this scheduling tool or whatever it is that they've got. What we will say is there is options out there. Find what's the best option for you. One, for your budget, you're right. But two, as well, not everybody learns technology at the same time, the same pace. So sometimes you have to start with a little bit smaller and then build up as the business grows. Your technology can grow with you.
Yeah, that prompted me, Tony, to think about something that we talk about for people in their first 12 months, that you probably need just to start with an email marketing system. So be looking at probably Google or Microsoft as the two biggest ones out there. But what often happens is clients tell you what they want you to use.
Yeah.
I use this, therefore we want you to use this. And it's sometimes a trap that people fall in where they go, oh, I've been told I should use Google, for instance, let's just have. But what they've realized is they've been using Microsoft for years, and trying to adapt can be very challenging. But what you also need to do is set your boundaries about what you will use. It's like Apple and Android, if you like.
Yeah.
You have a preference, and your preference comes to the way it works for you, how long you've been using it, the interface, there's a whole heap of factors. And someone might say to you, if you're an Apple user, you should have Android. And you go, no, no, I'm not doing that. It's the same principle when you're looking at your email systems, the tech that you're going to use. Someone will propose something to you, and you have to work out if that is an appropriate fit or not, based on your expertise, your knowledge, your experience of using products. I mean, I can use Google for clients, but I use only Google Drive. And that's probably all they're asking me to use. But when they say Google, that's the whole platform. We want you to
Yeah.
use, but it's the drive that they're after. But I'm using Microsoft for my business. So you've got to work out what are the requirements that the client's asking you as well, in order to make sure that it meets your working requirements.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, like you mentioned a great word, the boundaries. You have to have your own boundaries with clients anyway, because one of the most important things about technology is use what you're comfortable with. Yeah, you need all these expertise, you need to educate yourself on what it is, but ultimately, if you're not comfortable using Google, for example, and you're more comfortable using Microsoft because you've used that previously, which I find a lot of people have, and if they've been in a corporate environment, they've already used it, they just don't call it Microsoft. They call it Word, or they say, I've used PowerPoint. Well, that is part of Microsoft, you just don't realise it because they call it those names. But when you say you're right, Google, have you used Google Docs or Google Sheets? And they're like, I don't even know what that is. So why you want to use Google when you don't even know what it is, but you're comfortable using the other one? Then you can always, yeah, as you get more experience, you can challenge, you look at both of them and see which one suits you. But initially, stick to whatever you're comfortable with. And there's enough free parts out there to use these. You can get it free in Google initially, you get free in Microsoft. Try both if you've never really used them and feel what's right for you. Clients is great them telling you something, but remember they're coming to you because you're the expert in what you do. So when you're there saying, I need you to use this, well actually we can use that, but, and if you explain to them that what you're using, how they're going to get it, a lot of the times they'll be happy with that. You're right, the only thing a lot of them really want is the Google Drive, the link to whatever it is in the drive, and that's the thing they're looking for. It's not necessarily the whole package.
Yeah. And let's talk security for a minute, because I know that when you first set out and you're looking for the cheap options, free, something to build up. And I will caveat by saying, if you need to use something as basic as Word or Excel to start with, please go ahead and use those, because they will get you moving forward. But as you grow, it's good to have accounting software. It's good to have certain things as you build up, because it saves you time. You can automate a lot more. It allows you to report much easier, and it centralizes a lot of information. So, but we understand, an Excel can be just as good as anything else when you're unsure about where you're going. So security is one of those areas where people are worried about it. Password sites get hacked all the time.
Yeah.
You hear about huge breaches, but I would say that more often than not, keeping passwords in a secure system is by far the better way of using it, because it can then give you much more secure passwords, rather than having a book that you have sitting beside you on your table that you hand write out all your passwords, and then you carry that with you everywhere just in case you need it. I mean, that is such a security risk. Also, things like not locking your tech, like keeping your phone or your laptop open because you're worried about forgetting the password or something like that. You know, those are the things that you also need to consider if you carry around your client's data, that there is security measures in the technology that makes it harder for anyone to be able to access anything that is, someone else's data. So yeah, security can be a challenge to navigate, but it's important to look at it as, if something happened to the data that you own, you could be sued. So it's really important to consider those steps as you grow.
Yeah, and depending on what field you're in as well, there is legalities that you have to keep data secured in a certain way and also for a certain period of time. For example, I'm a coach and a therapist. So as a therapist, I need to have it for 7 years. I need to keep that somewhere safe, password protected. You can get that nobody else can get into. So I don't mean password protected just your screen, because you're right, there's a lot of things you can leave that open, somebody get in, but then once they get past there should be another level of security before you get in. And preferably a two-way one, maybe it's in a link to your phone or even different emails, not your normal email, but especially a backup one, which most people don't really hack your backup, so you've got something. The only thing I would say with that as well is I had one person recently, actually 2 weeks ago, and I was talking about the exact same thing. And the problem for them, they come up with a good question is, Tony, what happens if I keep everything on my laptop and then I can't get into the laptop because all my passwords are there and I can't remember the password?
Oh, gosh. Yep.
So that's another thing to consider is I'd always saying like don't keep a book with every password in it. Maybe have one password, the one that links to whatever of all the information is, somewhere that's accessible off your computer, just in case something like that ever happens. Because it does happen, you do forget. And what he said the problem was they went through and then he was asked all these questions he had to do and he couldn't remember what answers he gave at the beginning, which is people always think it's great to make difficult answers when they set something up when they set security, but you've also got to remember it needs to be something you will recognise
Yeah.
as soon as that question goes. So he admitted he probably thought it was something really obscure because nobody could get into it. The problem was neither could he now. Now he has to send all this information away before he gets anything back to get in, which is longer. So yeah, security is great, but we also got to consider how do we get in if anything happens as well. So keep that in mind when you're looking at that. But the fun thing I think recently is because the biggest fear I'm finding with people is AI. It's true because they don't understand what AI is. They think it's this thing because all this doomsayers are it's going to take over the world, it's taking over jobs. I think they think it's Skynet from Terminator. It's going to happen. Everybody's going to come in and these big monsters are going to appear and you can't kill them. And you're like, actually, I'll show you a different way. So I did some, like you probably remember from last year, I can't remember, 6, 7 months ago, one of the first sites I ever delivered on AI. And just for a bit of fun, I put a picture of me in and I put an HP prompt in asking what I would look like, things I look like in the 80s. And I did this thing, and I was a bit cross between Bowie and Adamant. I had the hair, I had the makeup all across my face and everything, the big flowery top. And it was amazing how people found that, and they went, but that's the business technology I'm using. I just did something like that to show you how simple something can be produced. And all they found it fun. They went, it looks amazing. I went, yeah, but that's what it is. It's a tool.
Mm-hmm.
So stop worrying about what any technology is a tool. No matter what it is, your scheduling one, your CRM, everything. So it's got nothing to fear. If I give you a hammer and tell you to go and use it, would you be frightened of it? Only if you hit your thumb. No, but otherwise, no. A screwdriver, would you be frightened of that? No. So why would you be frightened of something like this? The only fear that people have is the unknown. Until you know about it, once you learn about what technology actually is, then yeah, joking aside, it can be a lot of fun, but it also is so productive.